I'm going to be grading the trade deadline for every single NBA team. I know what you're thinking, the trade deadline was almost a week ago, but it's better late than never. So as usual, I'm going to have timestamps for every team in the comment section below. You can just watch your favorite team's portion of the video, or you can watch the whole video, which I would appreciate because, you know, the whole YouTube algorithm thing. Really quickly, I'm going to give my takeaways of the whole NBA trade deadline. I have 6 major takeaways. My first major takeaway was the top 4 teams in the East all think they can make the finals this year. You see what the Raptors did by trading for Marc Gasol, the Bucks traded for Nikola Mirotic, and the Sixers traded for Tobias Harris. Now, I know the Celtics didn't trade for anybody, but I'm confident if you ask a Celtics fan, they think they'll make the finals this year. So the top 4 teams in the East think they can make the finals this year. LeBron said it's because they don't have to go through him, which I think is true to an extent. The second takeaway I had was the Clippers are very confident they'll get a star in free agency. By trading away Tobias Harris, they knew they weren't going to sign him and give him the max slot because they were confident they'd get another star like KD or Kawhi. Third major takeaway was, with all due respect, the Lakers front office are just idiots. They can't choose whether to win now or just keep their pieces. Beginning of the year, they said they'd be patient. They were somewhat patient by not trading for Anthony Davis, but then they just sent some of their young pieces to LA and Detroit. Fourth takeaway is Kings believe they can make the playoffs by trading for Harrison Barnes. That shows where they believe their roster talent is right now. Fifth takeaway is the Wizards are embracing the tank by trading Otto Porter Jr. and for John Wall being out for another year. It looks like they're just going to rebuild around Bradley Beal, and they're going to rebuild their whole team. Sixth and final takeaway is the Pelicans don't know whether to compete or rebuild. The problem with them is they know their market size is small enough that if they try to rebuild, they might lose their whole franchise. But at the same time, they know they don't have the pieces to compete. They made some contradicting moves by trading for Markieff Morris, even though they did waive him, and by trading Nikola Mirotic. They're stuck in the in-between zone. They gotta choose whether they want to compete or rebuild. I did the teams in no particular order. They're completely random. First, I'll start off with the Sixers. Overall, I gave them a C. I'm sorry, but the Markelle Fultz trade, they get a D. Whenever you trade a 20-year-old that was a first overall pick for a backup forward and a first and second round pick, you can't get anything higher than a D. The Tobias Harris trade, I gave them a C+. Now just hear me out. Yes, I know they got a fringe all-star in Tobias Harris and a great backup center in Boban, but they had to give up so much to get him. 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. On top of that, they have to give up Landry Shamet, who's a great young player. And on top of that, they had to give up Mike Muscala and Wilson Chandler, who are great role players. They lost a lot of shooting. I know they got some of it back with Tobias Harris, but I don't think Tobias will be as good on the Sixers as he will be on the Clippers. Because on the Clippers, he was a first option. Right now on the Sixers, he's a 3rd or 4th option. Now I know they arguably have the 2nd best starting 5 in the league, but I still don't think the trade benefited them as much as people say it did. The James Ennis trade, I gave them an A. I like this trade. They got a quality role player for just a 2nd round pick. I could not care less about the Malachi Richardson trade. I don't know how to grade it. Not that big of a trade. Just gonna skip it. Lakers overall got a D-. The Reggie Bullock trade, I gave them a C-. Just hear me out. Reggie Bullock is an amazing player. If he had 2 or 3 years left on his contract, I'd for sure give the Lakers an A, maybe even an A+. But since he's an expiring contract, I gave them a C-. They most likely aren't going to be able to re-sign him next year. And I know 100% that they won't be able to re-sign him for $2.5 million, which is what he's making this year. They had to give up Shvee, who's a great young player. They could have put in an Anthony Davis package. Instead, they get Reggie Bullock for a year, who doesn't even fit their timeline. The Zubac trade, I think we can all agree, was an F. I mean, they traded Zubac for Mike Muscala. I know they also added Michael Beasley. Personally, I think Michael Beasley is better than Mike Muscala, and I also think right now Zubac is better than Muscala. So trading two players who are better for Muscala, and one of them is a young asset, just blows my mind. Zubac can be a starting center in this league in a couple of years. I'm glad the Clippers made this trade though, it really helps their team. This one's gonna shock you. For once, the Knicks front office got it right. I gave the Knicks an overall of an A+. They get an A+ for the Kristaps trade. They trade a 7'3" player who just tore their ACL and a couple bad contracts for their future starting point guard in Dennis Smith Jr., and they have 2 max salary cap slots open. The Kristaps trade, I give them an A+. They get rid of a couple bad contracts, and they trade a 7'3" player who has a torn ACL. On top of that, they get their starting point guard in the future in Dennis Smith Jr., and they get 2 first-round picks, and they have 2 max salary cap slots open. Good job to the Knicks. Hornets overall get an F as always. They don't help Kemba, they don't give him any pieces around him, and they don't choose to rebuild. Make up your mind, Hornets, I'm sick of this. Grizzlies overall get an F. It's great that they traded Marc Gasol to rebuild, but if you're going to rebuild, trade for rebuilding pieces. In what world is Jonas Valanciunas, CJ Miles, and DeLon Wright gonna help you rebuild? They're win-now pieces. Hawks overall get a C. Their biggest trade was signing Jabari Bird. That's all you need to know. Timberwolves overall gave them a D. They had no trades. I thought they maybe could do something. Maybe add a shooter. Maybe add another backup big. But they didn't do anything. Pistons, I gave them an overall of an A. I gave them an A for the Thon Maker trade. Sure, I might be a little biased since I'm a Bucks fan, but Thon Maker has a lot of potential. They traded Stanley Johnson, who, even though he is a young player, has very little potential. You know what you're getting out of him. He's just a great defensive player. He's going to give you nothing on the offensive side. At least Thon Maker has room to grow, and there's still some untapped potential in him. They get an A for the Reggie Bullock trade. They probably couldn't even afford to re-sign him anyway. At least you get a great young player in Shvi Michael Lewick. Alright, for now we'll just call him Shvi. Jazz overall got an F. I'm very disappointed in them. They had no trades. I thought they could have traded for Mike Conley or maybe another shooter like Nikola Mirotic. Wizards overall get an A in my opinion. They traded a bad contract in Otto Porter Jr. for a good young player in Bobby Portis, and they decided to choose to rebuild around Bradley Beal, and I'm glad they finally chose to do that. Thunder overall get a D. I know I'm saying this about a lot of contending teams, but I wish they traded for a shooter. They had no big trade. Suns overall get a C-. I don't see the point in trading Ryan Anderson for Tyler Johnson, but it's whatever. Nuggets overall, I gave them a C. I would have liked them to maybe get a backup center, but they had no real needs. Warriors overall, I gave them a B+. They had no trades, which was very smart for them, so they wouldn't ruin their team chemistry. Pelicans overall got a B-. Basically, they traded Nikola Mirotic for 5 second-round picks because you can't do much with Stanley Johnson. I wish they would have traded Julius Randle too. It doesn't make sense why they didn't trade him, but since they didn't, they get a B-. Spurs overall got a B-, no trades, but they didn't have any real needs. Nets overall, I just gave them a C. They bought out Greg Monroe for a second-round pick. I don't make much of it. Pacers, I gave a C. They pretty much got 2 pretty bad wings in Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin for the draft rights of some guy named Marty Lennon. Heat overall gave them a C. I don't know why they made the Tyler Johnson trade, but okay. Magic overall, I gave them an A+. I don't care what the circumstances. If you get a 20-year-old who is a first overall pick in the NBA draft, and all you had to give up was a decent role player and a first and second round pick, you automatically get an A+. Celtics overall, I give them a D. I didn't expect them to make trades, but the reason I gave them a D is because since they didn't make trades, but the other 3 legitimate contenders in the East did make trades to make their team better. Rockets overall, I give them a C+. Basically, they they swapped Iman Shumpert for James Ennis. I know that wasn't the trade, but that's pretty much how their roster changed. Blazers overall, I give them an A. In my opinion, Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin, flipping them for Scala Bizier and Rodney Hood is a major upgrade in my opinion. Bulls overall, I gave them a B-. I do see why they traded for Otto Porter. Yes, they needed a small forward, but his contract is pretty big, and they had to give up Bobby Portis. Although they did get rid of Jabari Parker, who they were looking to get rid of. Kings overall got a B-. They got Harrison Barnes for pretty much only Iman Shumpert. I know they also made a couple other trades, but that's pretty much all. Cavs overall give them a D+. I thought they could get more for Rodney Hood than just Brandon Knight and Marquise Chris, who they probably won't resign. Raptors overall, I give them an A-. Pretty much they got a better version of Jonas Valanciunas in Marcus Gasol, and really they just had to give up a couple decent role players, including Jonas. Bucks overall, I gave them a B+. I like the Nikola Mirotic trade. They get another great shooter, and yes, they had to give up Thon, and I'll miss him a lot, but they did need shooters. They didn't need shooters, but their whole game plan is having shooters around Giannis, and adding another one definitely won't hurt. Mavericks overall get a C-. Sure, you might have got Kristaps Porzingis, but let's put it in context. You traded starting point guard in Dennis Smith Jr., who's also very young too, and you give up 2 first-round picks, and you take on bad contracts, just to get a guy who has a torn ACL that's 7'3". You traded a starting caliber forward in Harrison Barnes for virtually nothing. I thought you could have got way more than just Justin Jackson for him. Last but certainly not least, Clippers. They get a B+. First of all, Jerry West is the best GM in basketball. He goes by his business quietly, unlike Magic Johnson. He traded Tobias Harris, who they wouldn't even have re-signed anyway, for a great young player in Landry Shamet and 2 first-round picks. You get Zubac, who can be a starting caliber center in this NBA, and all you had to give up was Mike Muscala. That's an absolute steal. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually going to give the Clippers an A. Scratch that B+. And that'll do it for the video. Thanks for watching if you made it to this point. Subscribe, like, hit a notification button, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Sorry this video is a little later than I wanted it to be. See ya.